Hello YouTubers, No Man's Sky enthusiasts. My name is Sean and I'm an alcoholic, but I'm a functional alcoholic. I'm not a burden to society or the taxpayers. Before I begin, I just want to give a fair warning. I'm playing No Man's Sky on its lowest settings, PC, unmodded. I do enjoy mods. However, when it comes to this game, it really spoils the experience for me. I do appreciate everything modders are doing for this community. It's just not for me when it comes to this game. Talk Skyrim, Fallout, I'll mod the crap out of it until it spoils the experience when I have to play it back to vanilla version. I do want to express my appreciation to YouTubers like CobraTV, Iceman 3rd ID, Venture Unknown, No Man's Sky Survival Guru, Cyrus, Foxglow, and we got a whole ton of others that contribute to this great community that we have here. What I want to do is speak on some controversies surrounding this game, and a lot of eye rolls there, a lot of anger. I was one of those people who was angry. I wasn't angry necessarily about the lack of dinosaurs and portals and other stuff we'll get into. It's more or less the performance and optimization for the PC. Players on the PlayStation did experience their own, they had their own share of crashes. I don't think they had the memory bloat that we had every time you got in and out of a ship. But I know that they experienced their own crashes. Hello Games has gone great lengths to do their best in optimization. However, you look around, level of detail, your draw distance, still pretty minor. In fact, you hop into a, I don't even remember what it's called. See? There we go. You hop in your roamer, drive around. I don't know how many of these little dinosaur bastards on this planet I've ran over just because level of detail, rendering, loading, I'm not running the best system. Tell the little guy. I'm not running the best system here. I got a GTX 760 that I'm about to run SLI as soon as I get a second video card. It's not the best, but it's 2017. I made this computer a couple years ago. You kind of expect it to run pretty decent. I'm not knocking them. The game was definitely optimized for port, optimized for PlayStation. I'm not knocking consoles whatsoever. PlayStation 4 is a beast, but it is causing limitations for them and for us when it comes to draw distance. Okay. So that rambles over. Let's get to some of these controversies. The biggest one is Sean Murray lied. He lied to us about dinosaurs, he lied to us about portals, he lied to us about this and that. Do I believe he lied to us? No. Not even your most infamous henchman is going to set themselves up for failure like that, especially with Hello Games. Steam, that dumpster is a whole other discussion, all right? But you look on their comics section for this game, the comments, excuse me, and it's terrible. Is it valid? Definitely not. Steam leaves the door open when they allow you to buy a game and return it within 24 hours. Just you can either make a comment on a certain page or show that, hey, I own this game. So I'm excluding all Steam commentary on this. Steam's pretty much where people go when they get kicked out of 4chan anyway, as far as that community. I don't think he lied. Let's talk the trailer, the initial trailer. We got our desert planet. We have our sandworm. The other trailer showed dinosaurs grazing. It showed a rhinoceros punching through trees and scaring off all the other animals. It was embellished, and I'm definitely not blind as a fan of this game. It was embellished, but I would be an idiot to think any other game that I enjoyed was truthful in their trailers as well. You gotta understand, as a developer, they need to sell their product. Okay. Had Sean Murray, with his fake Xbox controller that was plugged into nothing, had he ran a legit game, he would show up probably on a planet like this or something much less interesting. He's trying to sell this to the public. He's trying to sell it to investors. I'm not sure how it works with an indie studio like that, but I imagine there's some type of investment. We know Sony had some sort of stake in this game. All right. What he doesn't want is to show the most boring aspects of this game. This game is very fun. has a lot of fun aspects. It has a lot of boring aspects. Many of us have appeared on planets. In fact, I wonder if I can give a good example here. Let me see if I'm in the right system. I believe so. Let me see. While I make that trek. There are a lot of boring moments in this. For some of you roamers that pretty much long haul across the galaxy, you know this better than anybody else. All right, you're making your way to the hub or Pilgrim Star, wherever you're going. There's a lot of stops you make because you need to refuel, pick up resources, whatever, and you have an entire planet of nothing. And obviously, that's not something they want to showcase at E3 or wherever else. Okay, but to pretty much cap that rambling, it's not the first time a developer has embellished their product to the public. Sorry, I'm trying to see if this is the right example here. You look at Call of Duty, especially the newest one, Call of Duty in Space. This features pretty much the same thing the trailer for No Man's Sky did. A lot of that happened in the game? No. Is anybody mad about it? No. All right. But I'm not going to defend Hello Games. They did throw a lot of stuff in there, a lot of scripted stuff in there that turns out didn't even exist in the final product, because we have your data miners. It's like, okay, where's the dinosaur? The specific dinosaur, can't recall the name, didn't even exist in the procedural generation algorithm. For those that don't understand, procedural generation does not mean random. It's not a God program. I think I hyper out of this way too early. It's not a God program to where it's just going to create something out of nothing. No, it's given parameters. Here's what legs look like. Here's methods of movement, colors of the planet, planet terrain. That's procedural generation. What they gave us was a completely scripted trailer, which still used the game engine, mind you. All right, let's not fool ourselves there, especially those of us that are pissed. But a lot of that stuff was thrown in the game just to sell their product. Okay. When I was watching trailers, you can tell if somebody's playing a video game. I mean, come on, it's 2017. Everybody, unless you've been in World War II, everybody has touched a video game controller, and you know when someone's screwing around in an interview. So I'm not knocking them for that. It's selling your product. It's all across the board in advertisement. You see silly crap like that. The question is, did he lie though? Why isn't this stuff that was shown in the trailer and even talked about? Sean Murray brought it up. Yeah, not today. Not today there, Graviton Orb. All right. Why was all this stuff that was brought up in the trailer even discussed? Sean Murray discussed, multiplayer. I'll get to that as well. Why wasn't it in the final product? I don't work for Hello Games. I have no clue. Nothing of me is invested in this game, and I saw something that I meant to pick up here. There we go. But to get back to my first point that I brought up, I don't believe he lied. A lot of this stuff was in the original product. The reason I say that is because you're seeing it return. You saw it return in Foundation and in Pathfinder. Hello, Plutonium. The game came out last year. All right, we'll say the release was last year. Okay, we're on the fence about whether or not that was the full game. A lot of us experienced issues that caused us to turn away. Some of us came back, but it was last year. They've gone to great lengths to bring these updates. These updates they're meaty, they're packed. If you play this game, you see it. All right, it's leagues over the very original release. Okay, you cannot do that in a matter of months, which means this code existed in some form before the game was released. Okay. The next question is, what happened? Again, this is all speculation. I have no clue. I'm basing this on my own experiences, just through life. I'm a 37-year-old drunk playing video games, but I've seen a lot. All right. Why was certain things brought up and then wasn't given to us in the initial release. One theory I have is the flood played a big part in it. Okay, I could be wrong. Everything's backed up, and a lot of times they back things up on the internet, on some kind of intranet or network. Okay, a lot of developers don't do that. If you look at what happened with Steam and Half-Life 2 and that leak, all right. So let's give them just for this discussion. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, just for the sake of argument, that they didn't back up, or they didn't back up a good portion of this game. Come on. Through the internet. So let's say the flood did set them back in some way. I'm not going to say it set them back to 0, obviously. We'd be looking at another, 4 years of this game to be released. So they had something. That's one part of my speculation. Another part is, I think they underestimated not only their abilities, but their expectations. Their expectations way too high. They set the bar way too high for themselves. When it comes to multiplayer is still going to be a finicky beast. There's nothing I can say or anybody can say. Because Sean Murray blatantly said, he said it on Colbert, he said it on E3 and whatever else. Multiplayer does exist, and it was no hint to where it just means your discoveries, people can see them, which right now that's still on the fence too. You'll know this when you travel about 5 systems away from your original system. A lot of shit disappeared in the original. I don't know if that's the case right now. I don't know if that's been updated. But where's this fucking hub? Where's this Atlas, this hub on the internet? That takes money. Okay, but I'm rambling. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic here. Multiplayer was implied and even stated to where I could look at someone's ship, I could look at somebody's player character and interact with them in some way. That is the way Sean Murray answered questions. Okay. Again, I'm not riding the lie train, but it never made final release. To the point that there was no relic of multiplayer in this game when data miners were looking at it. Okay. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, Skyrim. I'm sorry, I may be off base here. Skyrim or Oblivion had multiplayer code, but they dumped it because it was a pain in the ass. All right, and it's just not the vision they had to where they wanted to dump enough effort into it. Okay, but that still remained in the code because it was built around the base game. I'm not a coder. I'm not pretending to be. The data miners, they spoke their piece on all this, and I'm just third-partying that information. There would have been something in the game. Okay, which takes me back to my little flood theory. Did that set them back even before multiplayer was talked about in previews and in their introduction to the game? Let's see if I can talk while shooting people. I'm a few drinks in right now. Yep. All right. It may have existed at some point. It may have been even on their. All right. It may have been on their to-do list. Okay, they may not have even got around to it because once they got the base game done, come on, there we go, Flash. Once they got the base game done, they could have realized this is too much work. We're not going to make release. We're going to piss people off, delaying this game again. You know, if you were following this game, I was a late bloomer when it came to No Man's Sky. I heard about this through CobraTV. Goodbye. Because it ended up being a YouTube video chain from, what's that game? Star Citizen? All the way through No Man's Sky. That's how I heard about this game. So I was a late bloomer. I didn't follow it from the beginning, but I did do a lot of research in it. The Reddit. I need to get it. I know it was said. I know it was, nothing was promised. I mean, but when a developer says it outright, you expect it to be in the game in some way. Okay. I don't even know if they got around to it by the time release came, to be honest with you. I do think they intended to have it. To what degree, we'll never know. Would it have been a peer-to-peer Would they have had a server? Did they expect that much income from this game where they'd ran a server, or it's going to be a local server, like certain Xbox games? You're playing online, but somebody's box is hosting that. You don't necessarily have a dedicated server like you would with a game like Call of Duty, where you're playing deathmatch with 40 different people. No one box is going to handle that. You need a server. Game like this, peer-to-peer, if you play with a couple buddies, you wouldn't need a server like that. Okay. But I'm going to get off the multiplayer horse. I hope we see it sometime. Not necessarily expecting it right now. Data miners recently. Make sure you watch CobraTV's very first live stream. Someone named Cyrus actually talks on that himself and others have data mined and seen new player models, I guess. That's what's implied. The Buzz Lightyear model, but it's not the old one. It's actually a new one. Okay, but I'll get off of that. When it comes to the sand snake or sandworm, the desert planet, the dinosaurs, the rhino, the interaction between these guys instead of them just hopping around like they're doing. That was shown to some degree that they would interact with each other. I think a lot of that was intended, but they were either set back by the flood or whatever, or they couldn't meet their own expectations. Why did they keep this from the consumer? There's a lot of different reasons. Sean and his crew could add pride. Well, we set the bar too high. We can't meet this right now. We've delayed the game so much, but we don't need to talk about it because it's setting us back. Sean Murray or whoever the powers that be over there could run their house like a dictatorship as well. No, we're not gonna speak on this. We don't need to admit our faults. Could have been Sony intervention, some kind of legal intervention. Having it again, I'm riding the flood train, or I'm riding the flood theory a lot. I don't know if it's true, or any kind of setback they had. They were given a gag order not to even talk about it. It's like, look, you've hyped this game up so much, we don't need to speak on the downfall of it. Okay, you understand this game was coming out pretty much in the shadow of Star Citizen, which is controversy up the ass. When you have someone like Derek Smart from 3000 AD, knocking your shit, and controversy surrounds Derek Smart, but in a good way. I'm not going to talk on that. That brings a lot of attention to something like a space sim. Something very anticipated. No Man's Sky maybe put that in consideration. I'm sorry, Hello Games maybe put that in consideration. Sony, whoever. I don't know. Who knows? Pride, dictatorship, gag order. Who knows why they didn't talk to us about it, or why they're still not talking to us about it. Communication is a good thing, though, especially when you have people that are very loyal to this product. We endured the optimization issues, having the best computer, still not being able to run this game efficiently. We endured a lot. We enjoy the game. To go back to my earlier point, a lot of stuff in some way has been implemented that was shown in the original trailer, which I strongly believe that code existed in some form. It wasn't finished, it was set back, but it existed. There's no way that they went from ground zero to give us, what we have in Pathfinder and in Foundation, just to appease the masses. There's no way. That took a lot of effort that had to have happened much earlier, because if they just pulled these two updates out of their ass like that, then we wouldn't have to endure so many delays in this game. It is a great game. It's very repetitive, but repetition sells in some way. You look at The Sims, you look at Spore, a lot of the Maxis games. Oh, that's repetition. Your challenge through repetition, your challenge is against chaos. You can go in and play the same game, any Maxis game, I guess. That's the best example I can give. You can go in and play them the same way. Chaos is going to come in, and you're going to end up with different challenges playing the same way. The game does the same thing. A lot of people also You know, be it a role play aspect, a hobby aspect. A lot of people find ways to kill time in this game. You have community projects, you know, such as the Galactic Hub. I wish I could provide a link right now. I can't. Alt-tab, just because I'm running a crappy setup again. It's the first episode. I'm working out the kinks. But look up Galactic Hub. You know, it's going to show you exactly where you are in this beast compared to where the Galactic Hub is. Galactic Hub was built basically as a meeting place slash common ground, if or if not multiplayer is implemented in this game. We don't know. We hope. I forget where I came from. But you know, whether or not multiplayer is a thing, the Galactic Hub does a lot. You know, we still share things through the community. Here's where I am. You know, here's a black hole I found that took me here. You know, and here's what I found on the way. Hopefully, this Hello Games really failed to provide this for us. You know, it was hinted through the Atlas, but we don't have a real hub. You know, we got to rely on the Reddit. We got to rely on the wiki. I'm sorry, the Gamepedia for this game to kind of share our experience. I can't go and look up what someone else has endured just because I went in and, you know, plotted in discoveries. You know. That requires money. We played this game pretty much for ourselves. We did hope to play it with others, but that's a forgivable crime in my eyes. They're doing what they can to make the game fun and interesting. They haven't just thrown up their arms and given up, which is great. This is still a great game. But they've limited us in a lot of ways as well. Such as, you know, I didn't pull up just then. The game did it for me. I get there's a lot of game mechanics that are not redundant. I don't even know what to say. The game's built for an arcade. All right, it's built for arcade play. You just hop in. You don't have to worry about anything. I can hold this button. It's going to find a place to land for me. What I would have preferred is the ability to hover, quote unquote orbit. You know, I can hover in here and I can just look around. You know, that not only feeds your roleplay aspect, but with this game's level of detail and draw distance and how quickly things render. It would have been very convenient. I can sit here and stop and look at things as they render around me. I can run scan all day, and it's not going to pick up things like maybe this monument. I didn't run scan just now. But, when you run scan, it gives you a question mark of monuments, bases, etc. Not all bases and everything load. Okay. On top of that, when you scan, your plutonium's not going to show up when you're in your ship. So running a hover to where I'm not moving, I'm not doing an auto cruise or anything like that. I can just sit here in 360 and look around and see what's around me and be like, okay, let's get some of this. To me, it felt silly to implement an auto cruise as well as an anti-collision. You know, anti-collision I'll deal with. I don't care. But an auto cruise is annoying. It's annoying here. It's annoying in space. Another thing that they did change for ease of use for the players is how planets did, according to them, orbit at one time. They orbited their central star. How that was possible, I don't know. Because right now, anyone will tell you, if I sit here and try to fly toward the star, it's going to be perpetual. It's going to go on and on and on until eventually the game crashes. Okay? That was their vanilla. I don't know what's been changed since then. But apparently, at one time, there was a way, or the game did have planetary bodies and possibly space stations, I don't know, orbit, but it was stated that it was changed because it was confusing players. If that's true, if that's the case, I think that's very silly because, you know, okay, I approached a space station, or I approached a planet from the space station and ended up here. A lot of us, and I'll say this pretty much with confidence, a lot of us don't hit a planet and stay in one spot and then boost back out and go. Okay? Very few might, especially your, here we go, especially your roamers, your long haulers. You might because you got lucky and found the plutonium or whatever you needed to make warp cells or whatever, or iron deposits because you didn't feel like shooting 2 million asteroids. Okay? But for the most part, a lot of us, we hit a planet, we roam to the point where by the time we're done with whatever we're doing, we're on the opposite side of the planet. So the space station I came from is not even going to be in view when I pop out, back outside of the atmosphere. So that was kind of a silly reason to implement that if it was changed. But again, that's up in the air. Go on all day about I don't think they lied. I just think they set expectations too high. They encountered issues that caused them to either revert things or just to never be able to implement them. All in all, it's a wonderful game. I enjoy the experience. I thank all of those that contribute to this great community. I can't wait to see it grow. And if the game does, and I'm not even counting on it honestly, but if it does go multiplayer in some fashion, I look forward to playing with a lot of people. All right, I have to read. Yeah. Choose death. I'm gonna assume Omfa. So we'll find out. All right, got a blueprint. Anyway, the game was multiplayer. I do look forward to playing with a lot of people, but again, I'm not even banking on it. I did look forward to it when the game was announced. I did plan with people through Steam and just people I know to play with, and I asked Hello Games, don't look to games like Elite Dangerous when implementing multiplayer. I will, again, speak, I believe I'm speaking on the most part for the community, that we would appreciate something like that, a full 100% interaction. But I think a lot of us would just appreciate the opportunity to fly, wingman to our buddies, to get out of my ship and see my buddy. And if I blow this hole in here, my buddy gets that on their end. But, changes I make to the environment, collect carbon, and he sees that happen. He or she sees that happen. I'm not worried about stats. I think a lot of us don't care about stats. We don't care about Call of Duty type stuff. What's it going to do to discoveries? I don't know. That's your issue to figure out. Okay, but we don't need things like ED. Okay, just a basic, maybe even peer-to-peer. You don't need dedicated servers. If you can provide them, that'd be excellent. If you can get someone to provide them, to fund them, that'd be excellent. But something peer-to-peer. I can pop on Steam and see a buddy playing. If it's got to be limited to 4 people, I don't know what an individual average PC can handle as far as that much information going back and forth. This game's already a resource hog as it is. When it comes to data going through bandwidth, I don't know. I have no idea. But we don't. Just something cooperative. Okay, we don't need competitive. Just something cooperative. We want to enjoy this experience with our friends. So if that can be implemented at the lowest level, lowest effort, and then you can build from that. If the game gets popular and makes you a lot more money, then by all means go fucking crazy with it. A lot of us just want to enjoy this experience with friends. Damn. So where's these guys I haven't seen? All right. That's my piece on co-op. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're improving the game. You're staying silent, which is, it's fucking annoying. But we'll get over it. We're obviously playing this game. We're enjoying it. But it's annoying. It's a big fuck you to us. And if you can't tell us what's going on and why certain decisions were made, at least let us know that you acknowledge our annoyance with that. And maybe if there's legal shit involved, let us know. Look, we can't discuss it because of this. Sony told us to shut the fuck up, or our lead dev's a Nazi when it comes to, you know, admitting defeat in a way. We set our expectations too high. So that would be appreciated, but it's been months, half a year, 3/4 a year. So I think a lot of us that are still playing, we're kind of over that fact. But that's still a matter of respect. You got people very dedicated to this game. I think you've made up for it in Foundation and in Pathfinder. Just little tweaks here and there. Listen to the community. You guys are on the Reddit. Steam, don't even worry about the fucking Steam. That place is so polluted and toxic, and I say this as a drunk who loves nothing more than cussing, drinking, and motorcycles and loud music that annoys people. But it's a garbage community with garbage moderation. Don't even worry about them. Who gives a shit? They want to rate this 2 out of 10 or whatever the fuck they do it over on Steam. Who cares? But you're communicating with Reddit. That's great. Wait, I can feed this little dude. Yeah, I just want to see. Sorry, I had a mod earlier that... Come here, buddy. What's up, bro? Hell yeah. I had a mod earlier that kind of disabled these. It came with... yeah. Alright. Fucking... Came with a mod pack. I installed the whole thing. It really changes the game. Dark. D-A-R-C. There's more to it than that, but I can't remember. And it disabled the little whips. The little guys that whip it good. So for modding, I did use a lot of mods in this. I also used the hex editor. I can't remember who released it. It starts with an R, and I apologize. They had a hex editor that built up your... you could use it to increase your exosuit inventory. I didn't do that with this, I promise. I started a new playthrough with a cheat. You can increase that. However, you can't increase Starship or your multi-tool just yet with it, because I guess the Pathfinder update, the code kind of fucked up with it, because you can get multiple ships now. So whatever the hex editor was using for your one ship now got split into 6. Or I don't know shit about it. If you're into modding, by all means, and I highly recommend them. Go on to No Man's Sky mods. As a longtime fan of Nexus mods, I do not recommend them right now. God damn. I don't recommend them right now. Just with No Man's Sky, because they don't unpublish and they don't warn whenever a major update breaks a mod. So if you're an idiot like me who, when I got into this, you just drop it right there into PC banks, I think. And you're good to go. But then they made the change where you had to have a mod folder and you had to delete a certain file. So I hopped back into this about a week or 2 ago when Cobra had streamed his survival mode, and it got me back interested. It's like, shit, they made a lot of changes. So I got back into this, started playing with some mods. How am I at 30%? Started playing some mods and realized that none of them was working. I had to do some research, because places like Nexus weren't telling you how. They weren't warning you that mods are breaking, which you should expect as a modder. I get it, but some kind of warning. And also, they weren't telling you what the new procedures were for it unless you dug through the fucking forums. Ain't nobody got time for that. Again, Nexus is a great mod community. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying No Man's Sky right now. No Man's Sky mod, No Man's Sky, and No Man's Sky mods is the best place to go. They give the mod author a option to unpublish it or to mark it as, let's say we get a next update. Well, the next update breaks, we'll say, I don't know, fucking make trees green or whatever. They give the mod author the ability to mark that as a Pathfinder update. So if you haven't updated yet, maybe you're apprehensive about updates. You want to wait until the community's endured the hardships before you update. You know what I mean? You can download. Okay, I'll look for anything that says Pathfinder right now. You can download it. I'm not sure how far that's been implemented. I went on there once or twice just to get some mods. Played the mods. Whoa, what's up, bro? Played the mods, and then I felt guilty and kind of pulled them all off. So I'm definitely in an unmodded game though. I got as far as 35 slots on my ship. This is after vanilla sometime. I don't have my original vanilla save, and I'm kicking myself for that shit. I had a lot of great planets when I started. This one though, although it's somewhat it's somewhere around vanilla, but the issue is wrong side. That's pretty much how I name all my planets. This system here was a 3-planet system when I started. 2 of my planets disappeared, and I ended up with it looks like 5. Yeah. So up to 5 planets, but I ended up losing 2, so gaining 4. Because it had something to do with their updates, whatever algorithm they use for procedural generation in the game. Should probably stock on more zinc. Not complaining. It was all about progress. It did kind of suck though. It set you back to 0. I was a homebody in that system, and then once a new update hit, I decided to just kind of expand or spread my wings a little bit. I'm still close because I'm a baby. My very first playthrough, I followed the path, felt guilty for whatever reason that I left my home planets. I didn't finish everything. I don't know if I did that in this either. Let me see. What are you doing? Okay, yeah, okay. A couple of these, yeah, it did save over when they did the major change. I guess Foundation, or I'm not sure. Whatever the big update was after the original, where they're addressing a lot of the issues. So some of these did save. Some of them I don't have shit. Because the planet either changed or it replaced another planet. So it set a lot of stuff back to 0. Anyway, I felt guilty. Went back to my original planet, and that's when I discovered, along with a lot of other people, I was a lot of jumps away. But you get the hang of shit. And you learn, okay, warp cells really don't take that much effort to build. So you build a ton of them, and you go back to where I went. The planets I discovered had reverted back to their original names. Discoveries, I think, stayed, but a lot of it like nullified to where I guess if I discovered this little bastard here and then went back to my discoveries, he looked different or some kind of rendering issue would show like just legs or some crap like that. That pissed a lot of people off, and I guess it broke some people to a certain extent because it was like, hey, look at all this shit I discovered, and hey, don't be shot. Look out, dinosaur. It's like, look at all this shit I discovered, and suddenly it doesn't exist anymore. That's pretty much the basis of fucking No Man's Sky, was discovering crap. Granted, their little algorithm for their procedural generation is all based on, I got 20 heads, 20 torsos, 20 different arms and legs, etc. And then so many methods of movement. Do they fly? Do they scuttle? Do they walk? But it was still our creation, our discovery. You'd show up on a planet and start logging all this shit, and you're like, okay, this is mine, and I'm sure it's going somewhere else. Where else would they have an atlas, that everybody else can see? You get so far from your system, all this shit would disappear. Or revert in some way. But it wouldn't be the genuine article that you found when you first discovered the planet. So yeah, that pissed off a lot of people, including myself. But I wasn't so much into Discovery because the crap I saw was it was amazing for a first playthrough or first couple playthroughs, but it wasn't a dinosaur, it wasn't something just amazing, that I could share, think I'd get a bunch of thumbs up for it. But it was still mine. Okay. The second part of that, is Sean Murray's whole kick about I'm not trying to open the multiplayer wound here, but even if you could, you wouldn't, because there's so many different systems, or it's just so big. Well, my very first playthrough, when I was going out and just exploring, and then came back to my original systems and found that they had reverted, I noticed around me systems were starting to get discovered. I don't know how that database works. I really don't know. I spoke on that earlier. We don't have a dedicated fucking server for our discoveries. It's floating out there somewhere, but it's obviously not dedicated to the point to where the crap I discover keeps its fucking name, and On top of that, I can't go and look up what another user discovered, you know, in an efficient manner. All right. But anyways, I started noticing someone was discovering systems around me, and it seemed like we had an indirect competition to discover all the crap we could, you know, before the other guy got it. We were pretty much linear. God damn, dude. Like 10 feet away. It was pretty much linear on what we were discovering. We were sitting here and watched each other. I don't know the update. You know, is it updating real time? You know, is it taking a few minutes? Is it taking days? I don't know. But, you know, I think we had an indirect competition. I wish I could remember the guy's name. The player's name, rather. Alright, that about concludes this. If you watched or listened, thanks. Bear with me. I'm going to do what I can about improving the mic. I'm using some garbage right now. Latency is going to be an issue until I can get OBS pretty much optimized for this. But thanks. Hope you enjoyed. You have a wonderful night and enjoy the stars.